Hello and welcome to today's review of the Toyota Carina E. Now, this is one of those cars that has a reputation for being reliable, but a bit dull. And you know what? That's a bit unfair. And in today's review, I'm going to prove to you why this car is actually not as dull as you think. It's actually really rather good. Hello and welcome to my review of the Toyota Carina E. Now, this is one of those cars that was very, very common if you went back, say, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, they were used as taxis, they were used as family cars. Some of them were even used as loaner cars. I'm not entirely sure why, they're massive vehicles, but hey, they were around. But when was the last time you saw one of these? I know in some countries like Ireland, they were hugely popular, and even then they've dwindled as well. But the rest of the problem, they've dwindled. These also had a reputation for being, how can I put it politely, quintessentially Toyota. Now, it's not the only one that's quintessentially Toyota. I mean, when you think of quintessentially Toyota cars, you have stuff like the Camry, the Corolla, Yaris's, Aventuses, and this. And unfortunately, being quintessentially Toyota, what adjectives come to your mind when you think of quintessentially Toyota? Worthy, reliable, comfortable, economical, but a bit dull. And that's a bit of a shame, really, because I think in this modern age, 2025, we have EVs, crossovers, SUVs. This really isn't a bad car. In fact, it's much better than you actually could imagine. And being a 31-year-old example, this is actually a modern day classic. All right, not in the sense of a sports car, but it is a modern classic in the sense of a car we don't see anymore, and that it is a family car that was once quite common. It wasn't in the top 10 sales charts, but it was very, very popular. But ultimately, I'm here today to try and show to you that this car is actually not as bad as you think it would be to drive. But I'm very pleasantly surprised with this car. It drives really rather well. So, what's the Toyota Carina E like to drive? Well, I can tell you straight away with this car, it is very smooth, very comfortable. I admit, it's not got the most sophisticated suspension setup. You do occasionally feel the odd rumbling here and there through the suspension. But it is a very comfortable car nonetheless. It really does feel like it's been inspired by its bigger brother, you know, the Lexus LS400 and the Lexus GS300 of its era. But really and truly, this is a very, very comfortable car. In fact, not just myself, but cameraman Dominic will also attest to the fact that this car does drive really, really relaxingly. But don't let that put you off in terms of its ability, because just because it does drive relaxingly doesn't make it a bad car. So the downside is that it does, alongside the rumble, the handling is affected. Why is it affected? Well, the handling itself is actually quite sharp. It is quite responsive. You can feel what the front wheels are doing. You feel connected to the car in all four corners. It's when the body roll really kicks in, and it really affects the ability to kind of corner this car. You can still corner it, but it leans too much. And as a result of leaning too much, you end up, well, being quite restrictive in how you can corner. Doesn't make it a bad car though. This is better with stiffer suspension. This car would be quite a nice little car to corner. Not quite as sharp to drive as a Mark 1 Ford Mondeo or a P10 Primera of its time, but certainly a very good car to handle. Much better than it was ever given credit for. But in terms of this car, yeah, like I mentioned, it is very handling-wise, not too bad, but could be better. The ride is very, very, very smooth, and actually, this being the 1.6 automatic, it's a very smooth engine and drivetrain. It does go nicely. Cameraman Dominic also drove it a bit earlier, and it does have a bit of pep to it. In the lower ends, not so much the higher ends, it's okay on the motorways. It's never going to leave you lagging. If you're cruising around 60 or 70 miles an hour, it's comfortable, but it's not a sports car. However, you do find that with these cars, they do actually quite well around town. They actually feel quite nippy around town. Actually, a good little car to learn in for an automatic. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously the manuals are a bit different. But this being the 4AFE petrol engine from Toyota, though it's going to be very reliable, but it actually delivers a decent amount of power. I think this particular one has 110, 115 brake horsepower. I'm sure you will correct me in the comments. But yeah, the automatic in this is a very smooth drivetrain. It really is seamless. So it's a wonderful car to drive in that respect. So, just to wrap up, you have the comfort of the seats and suspension. Well, not the best suspension in the world, but fairly decent. You have decent handling ability. It's unfortunately marred by the body roll. But it is smooth. It has a decent amount of pep around town. It really is a decent car to drive. And actually holds up really well in modern day traffic. It's a good car, this is.
So this being a 1990s Japanese saloon car, it has your typical 1990s Japanese saloon car interior. It's a mass of black and grey plastics. But I don't think it looks that bad, if I'll be honest with you, because those oily, smooth lines that you have on the exterior have just continued on the interior. In fact, you have this wonderful deck lid style part to your front fascia of the dashboard. I think it looks really, really good. And if you're Mr. Richardson from the Furious Driving channel, you'll love the fact you actually have a little tea shelf here. Now, I probably won't put my teas and biscuits there, but you've got some kind of shelf. Modern day cars have nothing like that. Now, I'll make this absolutely clear. I actually had the Avensis that succeeded this model. And I think the interior wise, I think I prefer the styling of this interior. Like I said, you've got the deck lid and the oily smooth lines from the outside. But ultimately, it's just nicely laid out. And I think we're so used to having buttons on the steering wheel and safety features like an airbag. It's quite refreshing to see just a simple steering wheel design. Something that fits into your hand nicely and it's not over cluttered. But reality is, yeah, there is a few features that are a bit dull. Yes, I'd like to see something like a wood dash or something a bit more interesting than just black plastic amongst black plastic. But what I do like being the automatic model, I actually think the gear stick layout is better than on the manual. The manual one was odd. It had like a kind of off-center design, almost like an aftermarket design. This actually feels and looks really nice with the chrome accents on the bottom part of the shifter and then wonderful chunky top part. And to be honest, the kick down in this car, I think I mentioned beforehand, it's probably not the best kick down in the world, but it does okay. This is an automatic 1.6 car from 31 years ago. I'm not asking for too much from it, but it does well enough. I'm happy with it. And then we come on to the seats. You have these wonderful designs that continue on from the rear, and I love the two-tone effect. But it would be nice to see a bit more funky 1990s material. But you know what? It's aged really well. I think the seats and the door cards is what makes the car feel a bit more light and airy in here. I must admit the glove compartment is massive. I mean, I've got a bunch of stuff in there, but it fits perfectly. I've got a bottle of water for emergencies and my entire CD case and my wonderful 10 CD changer in the boot. It fits it perfectly though. And then we move on to the stereo. This is an aftermarket stereo and it's not great. It's very clunky to use. I don't like the fact you have volume buttons there as just a simple knob, and everything's button operated and very slow and very clunky. But you do have the cassette player there, so no, it is a bit vintage and retro, and it does work. But it's very easy to adapt to modern day Bluetooth devices. But I don't use it. I don't use a cassette player for that. I have this wonderful aftermarket system I've got here. And finally, this being the GLI model, it has all-round electric windows with the automatic function on the driver's side for going down. Again, this is a car from it's technically 1994, but it's so early 1994, it's pretty much produced in 1993. This is a 1993 car with all-round electric windows, electric sunroof, power steering. I think it's a very well-equipped car, considering it's not even the top of the range model, it was the upper mid-range model. And finally, we have the centre armrest, which doubles up as the centre console storage area. It's a decent one, it's comfortable enough. I would like it if it was a little bit higher, but it does the job well enough. And it has a decent amount of space on the inside. I haven't clustered it with anything yet, but as you can see, there's a decent amount of space. If you want to put your drinks or anything you can fit in there, it'll be fine. Being an old car, this is not ventilated, so if you do put your ice cream in there, it will melt. Now, I'll be honest with you viewers, as you probably saw, I'm not exactly the smallest person in the world. However, the driving seat in front of me has been adjusted to my position. And look, I have plenty of knee room in front of me. Plenty of headspace too, and even a recline. And I haven't exactly got the shortest hairstyle, and yet I don't touch the ceiling whatsoever. It's a really nice interior back here, and actually it's significantly comfortable. But there's also a few features which I like. It does have a centre armrest, very simple one, but it feels nice and clean and solid. And I love the fabric design. You have the same on the door card as well. It's a continuation of the seat design. Now, early to mid 90s cars were notorious for having interesting and kind of wacky artistic fabric design. Almost like the opening credits of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But the fact is, this doesn't have it. It's actually quite sensible, and I think it looks really, really nice. It's many shades of grey, unfortunately, but the reality is it does actually make it feel lighter and airier in here, and as a result, it feels a bit bigger. Now, this being the 1990s, this wouldn't have been a decent family car if it didn't have a handlebar with a little coat hook. Now, one of the downsides of this car is you don't have remote central locking. It's such a wonderful feature that we all just take for granted these days, but you really feel it when you haven't got it. So I have to open it the old-fashioned way. But here's another 90s feature you don't see anymore. Integrated boot lid locks within the taillights. So let's open it up and let's have a look at the boot. Now, here's the reveal of the boot. You see, I think this is massive. I'm not sure if modern day cars have big boots this size, or if technology guys got in the way, made it smaller, or various crash safety has made the boot smaller, but this just feels huge. As you can see, there's a lot of space in there, and if I was to reveal the lower floor, which is a bit trickier than it looks, but I can find it. You'll find, after all that, you'll find there is a spare wall. I won't release it because it'll be a bit of a headache. But essentially, this boot can swallow up suitcases easily. I've taken it to the airport before, whole family of suitcases, fine. You don't really get boots this size anymore, and I think it's a bit of a shame. If you go into a crossover, you certainly won't get a boot this big. It's a shame we don't have cars like this anymore. There is a real practical side to having a saloon car. The car came with an aftermarket stereo system. It's a bit rubbish, if I'll be honest with you. However, one of the best things about this aftermarket stereo system was that it came with a 10 CD changer. It's actually quite effective, it does a good job. But it's pretty cool to see a car of this age with a 10 CD changer. Now, there is one issue I have with the boot space, unfortunately. Although it's massive, it uses the old-fashioned boot hinges, the one that kind of cut into the boot space as you close the boot lid. Really annoying. There were several cars of this era, P10 Primera comes to mind, BMW 3 Series, where the boot hinges were actually on the wings. It was wing hinged boots. They were much better. You had way more space to work with. You had nothing cutting in. Now, modern day cars sometimes do this, but they also have a nice system now where the boot hinges actually just slide in, slot in underneath somewhere neatly, so it doesn't cut into any of the space. I hate these systems. I really don't like these. But I suspect they're quite simple to operate and remove and replace.
So let's look at the styling of the Toyota Carina E. It really is one of those cars that's a product of its time. This being a 90s, early 90s Japanese family saloon. By that I mean, yeah, someone could say it's got the melted cheese effect of 1990s cars, and there is some truth to that, but reality is it's clean, unfussy line with oily, smooth curves. That's what I like about it. It really is. I think it's a really nicely proportioned car, and ultimately it's not too fussy as modern day cars are. What I'd like about this car particularly is the front end, how the headlights and the indicators kind of blend in neatly into the grille. You've got the lovely chrome grille. Specific models didn't have chrome grills, some did, some didn't. And I've adorned it with this lovely AA badge, but again, another 90s product. But it just has a habit of looking like a car that was a family car from that time. It was a product of its time, and it served the purpose, and it did that purpose. It's how the indicators and the headlights smoothly curve around, they wrap around the side of the body, and blend in with this lovely flowing grille. See, modern day cars just don't have that. Modern day cars are just over designed. The grille's all over the place. In fact, sometimes the headlights are above the grille. It's too much. This just takes you back to a time when cars were designed in a much more simpler and much more pragmatic way. But the fact is, it has those, again, oily, smooth, 90s Japanese car styling cues with the headlights and the grille and a lovely smooth bonnet. And underneath the number plate, it's just an air intake, and that's your lot. It's not overdone, straight to the point. Now, if I bring cameraman Dominic round to have a look at the side of the car, you'll find that those oily, smooth lines I was talking about continue right the way down to the other end of the car. It's a beautiful styling, in fact. It's almost scalloped, but reality is it's not actually too bulbous. Now you have to understand, cast your mind back, because in this day and age this car looks well proportioned and smooth. Back in 1992 when this thing was released, it really was quite bold looking in the sense of being big and bulky, not standing out, but it definitely looked like a car that was strong. It definitely looked like a car that was going to be comfortable. It gave you an impression of a car which was, well, let's be honest, it was inspired by a Lexus LS400 or even a Lexus GS300 of that era. You have to understand that back in those days, you had cars like the Vauxhall Cavalier and the Nissan Primera P10 Saloon, for example, and they looked like, well, more slender designs. And in today's world, they look completely minuscule in comparison to most cars of its class, let alone of similar classes. Then moving on, if I bring cameraman Dominic round to the back, I'd like to show some of the styling cues which I really enjoy at the back. You see, I appreciate most of these were sold as hatchbacks, and they did an estate model. Some people didn't like it. I actually quite like the estate model personally, but my favourite has always been the saloon. And granted, some people will say, well, it was in touring cars, and they liked the touring cars. Yes, there is all that sporting pedigree, but for a Carina E. But it's actually the styling which I like the most. Some of the models and the higher up models had a built-in almost boot spoiler. This didn't have that. This just has the classic, well, three-box saloon design, but it's so smooth and elegant. And to me, in many ways, this kind of looks like a thinking man's
poor man's Lexus LS400. It really does feel like a smaller Lexus on a budget, and I really like it for that reason. I love the way that the rear tail lights blend in beautifully with the number plate, and you have the light clusters, just so clean and simple, really straight to the point, and yet elegant. And there's not much below the bumper. No unnecessary grills or vents or fake vents or whatever. It's just, here's your car, here's your boot lid, here's your indicators and reverse lights and your brake lights, number plate, bumper, done. Clean, simple, and yet with a touch of that magic 1990s, early 1990s Japanese elegance. So what is my verdict on the Toyota Carina E? You see, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's one of those cars that's underrated and actually has a reputation it didn't deserve. It's a fantastic car, and actually it does a lot of things, especially in 2025, so well. I really like it. There's a few foibles here and there, but overall, I'm going to be generous and I'm going to give it the full marks. 10 out of 10 car. I really liked it. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like the video. It helps me out with the views, and it helps me out trying to get this video recognised, and especially with my channel. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.